Welcome to this was the latest one of our summer support series webinars on Monday evenings. So this evening, obviously, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about the changes to the laws of the game, and again, we will also spend briefly some time talking about misconduct report writing. Again, so very clear in terms of the aim, review the law changes ahead of the new season, which I'm sure has probably started for some, if not most, on the call this evening. And again, the misconduct report isn't going to be anything new or anything groundbreaking. It's just, I suppose, a couple of do's and don'ts from us as a county association. And again, I know there are one or two others on the call who, again, may be able to share sort of some experience or some sort of thoughts and comments around what they would like to see in the meeting. And as with anything, the opportunities for you to ask any questions. So don't necessarily feel like that has to be right at the end of the evening. We'll break for questions at the end of the sort of the laws of the game part, and again, there will be opportunity for questions at the end. If you do think of anything throughout the evening, please just either put your hands up and unmute yourselves, or just check it in the chat, and I will get around to reviewing it as and when I can. So in terms of the sort of the law change for the season, so the ones we're going to look at, we'll look quickly at Law 8, the start and restart of play, moving on to Law 10, determining the outcome of a match. Law 12, fouls and misconduct. Law 14, the penalty area. And you'll see Law 11's at the bottom. That's not because my maths is that bad. I couldn't work out where 11 goes. The reason for that is offside is rather than a change as such, it's more clarification. And despite it only being clarification, it's probably more important, or there's probably been the most changes to that than there has been to any of the other laws above. So that's why offside is at the bottom of the list, because it will be the last one that we cover, and probably the one that we look at in most detail. Okay, so quite simply, Law 8, the start and restart of play, the only basic change we've got there, and again, I'm sure it's something probably most of us were doing anyway, but the wording has been rewritten to confirm that the referee is obviously the person who is responsible for tossing the coin prior to kickoff. So I know something I have done previously was I used to hand it out to team captains and perhaps ask the captains to have a look. Now, again, it's quite law is quite clear. It's been rewritten to sort of come in line again with law 10, I believe, in the options in there, that we must be, as referees, be the individuals responsible for tossing the coin at the start of the match. Law 10, which is around the determining the outcome. So again, just a slight tweak in addition to the wording. It was made clear, or it was in law previously, that players or substitutes or substituted players were able to be cautioned or dismissed during kicks from the penalty mark. That's just been amended now, and the addition of team officials has been in there. So managers or coaches or any members of backroom staff are now also able to be cautioned or dismissed during kicks from the penalty mark. A couple on Law 12. So the first one on Law 12 is looking at goalkeeper handball. And again, you'll see there a little bit of some wording around the law itself. So where a player denies the opposing team a goal or obvious goal scoring opportunity by handball offence, the player is sent off where the offence occurs, in brackets, except a goalkeeper within their penalty area. So again, whilst that may have been sort of common sense to a lot of us, the wording in law didn't necessarily support that, and it could be misinterpreted in a way that referees could be dismissed, not referees, sorry, goalkeepers could be dismissed for handball offence within their own penalty area. But that obviously is now been added into law. That would not be the case. And the other part of sort of Law 12 is the restart of play. After fouls and misconduct. So if a player leaves the field of play to commit an offence against an outside agent, an indirect free kick is awarded. The indirect free kick is taken from the point on the boundary line where the player left the field of play. So law was clear that previously that obviously free kick cannot be given for an offence against an outside agent. However, if a player leaves the field of play without the referee's permission and then commits an offence such as that, such as the one the famous photo you can see there, whilst the ball is in play, an indirect free kick would be awarded. And again, we would award that at the point of the boundary line where the player left the field of play. And then again, law 14 tells us around the position of the goalkeeper. Again, nothing major, just more of a rewording. So when the ball is kicked, the defending goalkeeper must have at least part of 1 foot touching, in line, or behind the goal line. So again, previously it was clear that law stated there must be at least 1 foot on or above the goal line when the kick was taken. So the reason for the sort of wording and for the changing is that it was almost felt like if a goalkeeper had 1 foot behind the line and 1 foot in front of the line, technically that would be an offence, even though realistically they haven't committed an offence, or so they haven't gained an advantage. So the text has been amended to allow the goalkeeper to have a foot behind the line. IFAB have been quite sort of keen to express that whilst that has been allowed, the spirit of the law would state that the goalkeeper would have sort of a feet on or above the goal line by the time sort of until the ball is taken. So until the kick is taken, so that would give them a little bit of time to manoeuvre and get without gaining an advantage. And then we'll move sort of swiftly through onto offside. As again, just to sort of reiterate more than anything that it's a clarification on the law rather than an amendment. So it's distinguished now, well, there's more distinguished around what is meant by the term deliberate play and deflections. So the important thing to start with really is to have a think about what does law tell us in the first place. So rather than me just read out the boring definition, does anybody want to sort of unmute themselves and tell us what law states at the moment about offside and deliberate play? I can only see a couple of people. I can only see a handful of names in front of me, and only one's got their camera on. So Ron, I'm afraid I'm going to pick on you. I'm afraid. Just a second. Shaheem, your hand's up. I don't know if you want to unmute yourself and come on in.
Sam, are you asking for the definition of offside?
Yeah, so what does law tell us as far as we know at the moment around offside? What does law tell us?
So the definition of offside says that the distance between the goal line and the goal is the distance between the goal line and the attacker is less than the distance between goal line and the ball. Am I right?
Yeah. So it's basically this. Obviously, so we've got the definition. So offside in terms of an attacker gains an advantage by being in an offside position if they are further, closer to the goal line than the second rearmost defender. Absolutely. What does it tell us around, or does it tell us anything around deliberate play by defenders, or if there's deflections on crosses, things like that? Do we know what it says there?
I'm not clear on that, I'm afraid.
No, that's fine, mate. It's not a problem. So again, at the minute, what law states is it's the players in an offside position. At the moment, the ball is played or touched by a teammate, and they are penalised on becoming involved in active play by either gaining an advantage by playing the ball or interfering with an opponent when it has been rebounded or deflected off the goalpost, crossbar, match official, or an opponent. A player is in an offside position when receiving the ball from an opponent who deliberately plays the ball, including by deliberate handball, is not considered to have gained an advantage unless it was a deliberate save by an opponent. So there again, it's just sort of said if you're in an offside position and your opponent deliberately plays the ball, potentially including deliberate handball, they wouldn't be deemed to have gained an advantage. So again, there's been a couple of sort of changes, I suppose, rewriting of the law itself to give us a little bit more clarification and distinguish the act of a deliberate play or deflection. So for sort of deliberate play, when a player has control of the ball, what was deemed when deliberate play is when a player has control of the ball and the possibility of that defender passing the ball to a teammate, gaining possession of the ball, or being able to clear the ball. So whether that's kicking or heading the ball clear. So it was felt if a defending team had the opportunity to do either of those three, that it would be deemed deliberate play, and therefore the attacker wouldn't gain an advantage. And again, it's obviously important to remember that even if that is unsuccessful, that doesn't negate that a player has deliberately played the ball. So if the pass to a teammate is unsuccessful, if the clearing of the ball is unsuccessful, then that doesn't negate the action of deliberately playing the ball. So a couple of sort of things and criteria, I guess, for us to think about as match officials when judging the deliberate play action, and whether or not that player was in control and playing the ball, was we need to think about and think the distance the ball has travelled from the player, and did the player have a clear view? So how far has the ball travelled to that defender? Was their view unobstructed? How quickly was the ball moving? So again, have they got a realistic chance of being able to control that ball? The direction of the ball was not unexpected. So again, are we looking at deflections? Are we looking at other influences from potentially teammates, or that may well impact the direction of the ball? And again, has the player had time to coordinate their body movement? So again, rather than the stretching of a leg to try and prevent a cross, or jumping when they've got no realistic chance of making a proper contact with the ball, or the movement, or has the movement achieved limited contact or control? So 4 things there really for us to think about when trying to judge whether or not a defender has deliberately played the ball. Again, hoping it makes sense a little bit. It potentially makes a confusing law hopefully slightly easier. And if I haven't explained it well, then I'm hoping that a couple of clips will help us with that. So bear with me for 2 seconds. I'm going to try and do is just play a couple of clips for us. I don't think there'll be any sound, so don't worry if you can't hear anything off the clips. But again, I'll play the clip and give you all a little bit of background as to the reason for using said clip. Okay, here's number 1. Okay, so given what we have just sort of looked at, what we've just considered, does anybody want to be brave enough to tell me whether or not they feel that is it an act of deliberate play, or are we going to penalise that attacker for being in an offside position? Who wants to be brave and take the first clip for me? Or am I going to have to pick on someone again?
I'd say that was the ball had come from a decent distance, wasn't obstructed, made a deliberate chest pass back to the keeper. The attacker's not gained an advantage by being stood where he was. So I would let play continue.
Yep, spot on, absolutely right. So yeah, FIFA have made it clear that if this was to happen, this is not an offside offence. So yes, the attacker is in an offside position. However, the play from the defender is probably as deliberate as we've seen. Exactly as you've just sort of touched on there, Ben. Their view was unobstructed. It's come from quite a distance. They were in control of the ball. They've managed to control and set their body position to make that pass to the goalkeeper. Ultimately, because that is unsuccessful, that isn't enough for us to say the attacker's gained an advantage. So absolutely, that one is not offside. Brilliant. Okay, we shall move on to clip number 2. Okay, so who wants to offer us an opinion on that one? Anybody?
I'll go. It's Nick here.
Yeah, brilliant. Go for it, Nick.
Yep, to me that's deliberate because there's requisite time and opportunity to bring the ball under control, but the defenders just failed in her attempts to control the ball, but it was a deliberate act in my book.
Yeah, no, fantastic, spot on. So again, IFAB and FIFA tell us that this would not be an offside offence. Quite clearly a deliberate play by the defender, who has had a realistic possibility of gaining possession. And as I said, the ball's travelled from distance, not quickly. It's along the ground, with an unobstructed view, and she just made a complete mess of it. So yeah, absolutely, this one we would not be expecting this one to be penalised for offside. Brilliant. Right, we shall move on to the next clip, which isn't that one. It should be this one. Okay, would anybody like to offer us an opinion on this one at all?
I think you would call that. So Lukaku's offside, in an offside position when the ball is played.
Yeah.
I think the presence of a second defender in front of the one that touches it means it unexpectedly comes at pace from behind that first defender. The touch then is not deliberate, so you go back to was he offside from the initial pass?
Yeah, brilliant. No, spot on. So again, the decision here, or the clarification we've had for I've had in FIFA released, is it is that the action of the first defender, who's obviously quite clearly tried to play the ball and miss, meaning that the second defender behind is obviously, is just completely taken aback, I guess, by the unexpected presence of the ball all of a sudden at their feet. They haven't had the ability to gain control of the ball or clear the ball. Again, made a hash of the clearance, but yeah, correctly, we would be expecting this one to be signalled as offside if it was to happen in one of our games. Brilliant. Okay, clip number 4 should be this one. Right, okay. Anybody want to offer an opinion on this clip at all?
I'll go through it, Sam. Jeff Baldock.
Brilliant. Cheers, Jeff.
No, I would say not offside, because the inter-defender, in stretching his leg out in front of the attacker, went to deliberately play the ball. He just happened to deflect it and pass it into the, I think it's Barcelona, is it? Into the Barcelona players, sort of right in front of him to score. So I'd say not offside in that case.
Brilliant. Okay, fantastic. And yeah, absolutely correct. So the decision here would not be offside. I'm not sure this is the best clip in terms of I'm not sure the defender or the attacker is actually offside anyway. So we kind of have to imagine that they are. But yeah, if the attacker was in an offside position and this sort of thing happened, we would not be expecting you to raise the flag and deem that as offside. So again, the defenders deliberately played the ball. If anything, they've been successful in their action of getting to the ball first. Just so happens that unfortunately that's landed right at the feet of the opposition, who have put that into the back of the net. But yeah, looking at sort of the criteria that we've looked at already, he's had time to coordinate the body movement, managed to sort of set himself with the ability to clear the ball. Again, just very unfortunate that it has gone right to the foot of the attacker. Brilliant stuff.
Sam, just a quick question, and
Yes.
if you're going to cover this, that's fine. But with these clarifications, it's often the match officials that have had this sort of training, but the players haven't. If there is something that's contentious, the referee in the middle, would you be expecting obviously the same kind of eye contact, communication between that and the assistant, or would there need to be a chat to clarify that things have been done correctly? Because I can imagine the players kicking off and the linesman getting quite a lot of abuse.
Yeah, I think certainly while I mean what it will probably take is, as it does anything, it will take something like this to happen in the Premier League or something where everyone gets eyes on it to sort of start understanding it. I think certainly the early parts of the season, if that happened in one of my games and my assistant is flagging for it, which is flagging for it or potentially not flagging, I think the expectation would be for referee to have a chat with the assistant, if anything, just solely from a match control point of view. Because like you say, the first person they're going to be going at is the assistant. So if he does flag it, I think a conversation will need to be had with them of just saying, listen, X, Y, Z in terms of why we think the decision they made is incorrect. If they don't flag it and they are getting a load of grief, you may not necessarily need that conversation if you're comfortable as the referee yourself to say, the defender's played the ball, he's ultimately successful in his defensive action. So I guess there's no sort of there's no answer from us in terms of it. You have to do this, or we would expect this. I guess be very much on the situation and what the match expects.
Yeah.
I dare say if one of us went out and flagged this offside tomorrow, I don't think there would be any major backlash on it because people probably wouldn't know. Obviously, from our point of view, though, in wanting to get the decisions right, it would be the conversation with the referee to say, actually, that potentially that goal may stand, but completely understand it would be down to the referee to sort of what they feel would be best for their match control given the current position of the game.
Yep.
I mean, personally, Sam, it's Jeff again. Personally, I would go over to my assistant in any of those, anyway, whereby it is so close, just so that we can sell it as a combined decision. Yeah. And I'm just wondering what an observer would think otherwise if you don't go over there to show sort of that team togetherness and the fact that if he's raised the flag and you've blown at the same time, then clearly both of you have got it, and therefore I would say an observer would expect you to go over.
Yeah, I suppose it's too. I think if the goal's given, because obviously what we are saying is if this goal is correctly given, which is great. I think if the referee gives it and the assistant doesn't flag, there probably doesn't need to be that conversation because I would expect the referee to be the one to say to the defending team who are going to be aggrieved, this is why the goal stands. As you say, I think that conversation will have more purpose. The conversation have more purpose if the assistant perhaps tried to disallow the goal. Then absolutely there would need to be a conversation between assistant and the referee, as to obviously what they've seen and what they believe the outcome should be. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Perfect. Right, so that was that one. So we've got skip a couple and we'll go on to the next one. Should be this one, hopefully. Okay, who would like to sort of come in and offer a view on this one?
I don't want to give another answer. I've done two.
Yeah, that's fine. Let's have a look. We might have to pick a name. Let's pick a name.
Hi, Sam.
Hello, is it Charles?
Charles, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, come on in, Charles.
Hi. Was the ball hit with such pace that although the defender on this side of the field, close to the touchline, attempted to get it, it wasn't a reasonable opportunity to try and intercept the ball? And it was with such pace it took the rest of the defence by surprise, and therefore would be offside.
Yeah, absolutely, Charles. Definitely agree. This one should be an offside and should be flagged as offside. As you'd say, it wouldn't be deemed deliberate. The defender is never in or never looks like they're going to be in control of the ball. They've got no possibility really of effectively clearing it because they're stretching, not coordinated, so necessarily forward their body and looking at as you say, the distance and pace of the ball has travelled. Then yeah, would 100% support a offside flag for that one. So brilliant. Okay, and then I've just got one more clip for us to look at, which may cause a little bit of controversy as it did at the time, I believe. Definitely won't. It's not that one.
I think this is the one we're going to see most of.
Let me just, sorry, definitely just trying to find the. Yeah, this is the one. So England, Germany back in the Nations League a few years ago. I certainly remember there being an outcry on social media about how we were robbed of a penalty on that day. Who wants to? Does anyone want to offer their sort of thought and opinion on this one at all? And
Could you run it again?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, anybody want to come in on this one? Okay, it's all quiet. So let's pick on Matt Henderson. Matt, are you there with us this evening?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, mate, loud and clear. Brilliant. So what do you reckon on this one, Matt?
I would say it's going to be the pace of the ball. There's not been any kind of deliberate contact by the defender. It has been a sort of, want a better word, a flinch reaction to the ball coming across the area. But
Yeah.
because of that, the attacking player is in an offside position when the ball is played. So that's the sort of initial offence of being in an offside position. So the penalty is not given.
Yeah, again, yeah, spot on, absolutely. So not this, like I say, maybe one of the more common ones that we see certainly within the grassroots game. But yeah, IFAB and FIFA have made it clear this is not. There obviously certainly isn't a penalty because it's an offside offence. So the defender hasn't deliberately played the ball. Again, never at any point are they in or look like they're going to get in control of the ball or have the possibility of clearing it. It's travelled from a short distance relatively quickly. And again, as you say, that sort of flinch or instinctive reaction to stick a leg out and try and stop it is the only thing that's carried it into the box. So again, just for clarity, the expectation there would be offside, which is brilliant. Okay, that's it from the clips. Again, what I'll do is I will share the link with you all. So because there are plenty more plenty more clips on the IFAB FIFA presentation that you can take a look at, and hopefully that will certainly further cement the change in your heads. Okay, so other than that, does anybody have any questions on any of the sort of the law changes or any of the changes that we briefly looked at this evening?
There's just one thing, again, just thinking back to various grassroots levels that will be officiating.
Yes.
You know, none of the clips there, or they may show in different clips. You know, one of the really common ones is a defender going up, mistiming a header, skims off, and the attacking player that was in an offside position, you know, gets the ball. Now, I guess, is that a deliberate attempt to head the ball? Because they're not going to control it, they're going to clear it.
Mm-hmm.
And is the fact that they mistime it, it's not successful, immaterial? They have deliberately attempted to clear it.
I think for me, if it's that sort of example and it skims the top of the head and goes through to the attacker, I would be expecting offside on the basis of down on under this sort of the control element that that's been included in it.
Mm.
Again, I guess, you know, you'll be better judge. So if, for example, if the defenders, you know, quite clear, had a clear view of it, they've taken 3-4 yards back to meet the ball and have made a complete hash of it, then, you know, I think potentially you've definitely got grounds there to say that is a deliberate play, deliberate act.
Yeah.
If they've jumped up and they've mistimed the head and it's just skimmed the head, I would say that there is very sort of limited chance of them sort of controlling that ball or clearing that ball. So I would support an offside flag in that case.
Okay, great.
Yeah, brilliant. And again, just sort of a reminder, if you haven't already, do download yourselves the laws of the IFAB laws of the game app. It is a real sort of useful app to have on your phone to keep yourself up to date of any changes or sort of circular updates as and when they come through. You've also got the opportunity to test your knowledge on there as well with some laws of the game questions. So whether ever you're bored sleeping or anything like that, certainly in the heat we've had the last few days, and want to test your law knowledge, and the app will allow you to do so. So again, available on all sort of Apple and Android devices. So we'd really urge anyone who hasn't got it to download it. Other than that, sort of second part, last sort of 10 minutes or so really on the of ours, just wanted to spend a little bit of time just touching on again on misconduct report writing, which to the majority of people on the call will, I'm sure, be second nature, will be common knowledge. Again, just a real sort of useful couple of little bits from us in terms of what, you know, we as a county association are looking for. And again, I know someone, Ron, who's with us this evening, Ron may well feel free to chip in, Ron, with your disciplinary hat on this evening. If there's anything that you feel would add benefit as well, please do so. So obviously quite clean, first of all, quite, again, easy, very basic in terms of how do I report. So ideally everything will be reported through the whole game system. Hopefully most people are familiar with that in the process of adding yellow, red cards and any extraordinary incidents through whole game. If you're not, don't worry. I have got a couple of quick screenshots at the end to just run through that with you. So anyone who isn't too sure, then do hand fire more, we can cover that off. Other than that, if for any reason you're having any issues with the whole game system, if it's in one of its tantrum moods and it's stopped working, if you can't get hold of the system, you can't find one of the teams or one of the competitions, then you can always email us. So if for any reason, say you can't find a team, anybody who is involved in academy matches and things like that, again, very rarely are academy sides on the whole game system. So it would have to be a different way. So it would have to be an email report. And again, the best email address there would be discipline@berks-bucksfa.com. Just a gentle reminder, so all sort of incidents and reports should be submitted within 48 hours of the game where possible. Again, I appreciate that isn't always the case, and if there are one or two times they are a little bit later, then that's fine, as long as it's not a regular occurrence, because I know it is the length of time between reporting and the date of the match is something our discipline team and the FA discipline team are looking quite closely at. And again, if you are having to email the report over to us, please include full details of the fixture and competition. So the details of both the date of the fixture, details of both teams, venue it was played, the and again, obviously more importantly, the league / cup or county cup competition, whichever competition it is, just make sure that is listed as well, because that will help us with the process. In terms of sort of the misconduct report itself, then in what information are we looking for from a county FA? So we do ask you be specific, so stick to the incident in question. We're not too concerned with what you had for breakfast or how your journey to the game was, or how brilliantly everything else was for the other 89 minutes. Obviously we are, and the report should only be specific around the incident in question that you are reporting. Ideally try and use what are the 4 W's, so who, what, where and when. We don't need the why. I'm sure we'll be able to work that one out for ourselves. So obviously who was involved, names where possible, if you can or are unable to get names, and obviously shirt numbers and descriptions of those individuals. So what has happened, again describe the incident itself. So where has it happened? So where on the pitch has it happened? Where were you when the incident happened in terms of proximity? And again, when, so at what point, what minute in the game did the incident take place? And again, be clear. So use the exact language used. I know that never quite always seems right. Some of the stuff we hear on a football pitch, we certainly don't like to repeat, let alone write down and send to other people. But trust me, it's one of the major things that helps our panel when they review cases. And it also helps sort of Carly and Alistair in the office when they're actually charging or looking to charge an individual. What was the exact language used? What was the nature of it used? And how did it make you feel as match referee, especially if it was directed towards yourself following a decision or following a sanction? How did that make you feel as the referee? Were you sort of fearful, intimidated, or were you sort of quite comfortable that it was just a momentary lapse in what was a bit of a frustrating game for somebody? So let us know how that incident made you feel, especially if it was aimed at yourself. And do not make any assumptions. So we don't need to know why you think they did it or what someone has told you at the ground they think they did it because. That will be for the guys in the office and the team on the panel to assume why the incident happened. So we ideally would like you to avoid making any assumptions or any guesses as part of your report. Ron, I will pause there if there's anything you would like to come in and add at all.
Not really, Sam. You're quite right about the wording. If somebody's using foul language, I know we don't like to write it down, but as a disciplinary commissioner or as a panel, it does help us, and it also helps Carly in the office to determine the level of the charge that she's actually going to raise. So don't be frightened to put it down. And as Sam says, we're only really interested in what's happened at the time. We're not interested in what happened 5 minutes before or 5 minutes after. The specific incident is really what we're interested in. And Sam, I don't know whether you've been updated or whether Liz mentioned to you about the discrimination reporting. Do you want me to pick that one up, or could you want to do that?
Yeah, no, feel free, mate. Yeah, you're probably more in the loop than I am on that one.
Yeah, well, this is something with the board, because obviously we have our quarterly disciplinary reports, and although discrimination is being reported more widely, there's still the feeling within the county that it's not all being reported. So if a player or a spectator says to you that a player has used discriminatory language to him or to somebody else, then it is your duty to report it. We're not asking you to raise a charge. All we're asking you to do is to actually report what's been said, by whom, and who reported it to you. Send that to the county office, and that's your job done. You may be called, you may not be called to a disciplinary panel to just to reiterate what you've said, but you've done your job. And we know discrimination goes on. We know a lot of it's not reported, and I understand that people don't want to get involved, but it is important that we do try to stamp it out. So just bear that in mind. So as I say, if it's reported to you, just all you need to do is make a note of who's told you, what was said, allegedly was said, and report it to the county, and the county will deal with it from there. That's all I've got to say. Sam, thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that, Ron. Yeah, and again, as Ron said, I know through sort of some of the regular meetings we had conversations with a team in the county who said to our welfare officer that an incident happened to them 2 or 3 weeks prior to meeting with the welfare officer, but we were never made aware of it. It was never reported to us by the referee or the club itself. The club themselves never followed up because they, again, had a complete lack of faith in the process, should you say. Again, I think that's probably quite consistent across the country, not just within Berks and Berks for sure.
That's
yeah,
true, Sam.
we've all got a job to help sort of stamp it out, help raise awareness of it. So yeah, even if we don't hear it, as Ron says, please just put it in an extraordinary report, make it clear that you haven't heard it, but it was reported to you, and then your job as a match official is done.
Shaheem's got his hand up.
Yes, I'll just pause there and invite Shaheem in. If you want to unmute yourself, Shaheem.
Yeah, Ron, just a quick one. Is that the discrimination by a spectator to a player?
It can be anything. It can be spectator to spectator, spectator to player, spectator to manager. If you hear anything of a discriminatory nature, or it is reported to you, then please do pass that information on to us. Like I say, it might be that nothing happens, but again, that's not for us in terms of match officials to worry about. That's for the County FA to worry about and determine. So yeah, if anything is brought to your attention here, then please do report it.
And as Sam says, that be player to player, player to spectator. Conversely, be spectator to player as well. So if you say something's from the crowd, they may not know who said it, but the club will be asked for their observations, and if necessary, the club will be charged. So it's it's quite important. It is very important if it's reported to you from whatever source it comes from. Yeah, it is important that it's reported to the county and it's dealt with. It may well be there's not enough evidence to raise a charge, but at least you've done your job and reported it.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you very much. And again, just very, very, very briefly for anyone on the call who isn't sort of too familiar with whole game and the whole game setup. So if you have tried to log in or you are logging, you'll be very, very familiar with the front screen. If you do get to the front screen and you're not sure on your password, or you have forgotten your password, you've got the option there to submit forgotten password, and that will then ask you to enter the email address associated with your record. You'll then be able to pop in the email address, receive a verification code, and update your password, whether that is just because you've forgotten it, even if it's the first time you're trying to log into your account. As long as there is an email address associated with that record and it matches to the one you put in when you click forgotten password, you'll receive a notification or with a verification code asking you to enter that. Once you're in, obviously you're looking for the referee administration tab, which will appear along the top. Once you're into the sort of your referee dashboard area, you've got the option, which we didn't highlight, just here on your left hand side to add a match. And then again, as you'll see from here on in, it's pretty much a drop down option. So you'll select your role, which again is another very good point. If you are, if you're an assistant referee and an allegation is made to you or made to the referee, we would still encourage you to enter a report as assistant referee. Again, even if you haven't heard anything, just to help with the investigation, to help with the clear picture, to help the guys and girls in the office, just make it clear that you were the assistant, but you didn't hear anything, but XYZ was reported to you. And again, you'll enter the match date. You can start typing the details, the name of the competition, and they will all appear in a drop down under the match, under the box. Once you click save match, you'll then have the option, if as referee, to add any yellow cards, any yellow, red cards, any send off warnings or technical area cautions and dismissals, as well as an extraordinary incident area at the end. So again, really, really straightforward process. We do have, again, a few more screenshots on a resource we send out to our newly qualified referees. So if anybody is unsure on the process and needs to put something through the whole game but has never used it before, doesn't feel comfortable using it, again, please drop me an email, give me a call. Again, more than happy to share that guidance with you to help you, and obviously spend some time if need be. We can always go through it on the phone or arrange a Teams call like this to sort of share screens and work through it step by step, whichever works best for you.